muscular. And so I showed this, I put all of this in a small bag, and then I start to talk some introduction, and then I asked them a question to review the introduction. And so, for example, I told them, okay, yoga is 7,000 years old and started by Lord Shiva. And like this, we're talking about the history of yoga and what's the purpose of yoga. And then I ask them questions because, if only we talk, like at night, like this, we talk a lot. But if we only talk, people don't listen. So I asked them, who knows? When did yoga start? Now people say 7,000. Okay, then I go to them and they take out of the bag, they can choose a circle. And so, for example, here, okay, the energy system. So yoga works on the energy system. And then we start to explain about how yoga supports the energy flow and how the energy flow between body and mind is so important for maintaining health. If the energy flows well, the body-mind connection is good, and you will not get sick and you have lots of ideas. So like this, we talk about the energy. So then I ask the next question, and then they will pick up another one. So they pick up one by one, and okay, the digestive system is related, all this is related. So I mention every time they pick one, I mention the main points that we share every Monday night. And I said, okay, yoga works on all these things. And these things interact, and the glands interact with the nerves, the digestive system interacts with the nerves. And so everything is interconnected. And then I explained, but there is one system that affects all the systems. And that is, now I ask them, but most people don't know. So then they say, okay, breathing, the respiratory system. And so through our breathing, we can affect the nerves, we affect digestion, the energy, the blood flow, the, the brain. So every aspect of the body systems is actually affected by the breathing. So how we breathe, whether we breathe fast or slow, whether we pay attention, all these can be beneficial to the whole system. And then I explain our yoga system, how we use breathing and when we do the poses. And I think it was nice. The people paid a lot of attention. And I share this with you because all of you spend your Monday evenings, at least some part of your evenings on these workshops, in this study circle. And we really hope that you can share this with the public, with your students, and with other people. And Saturday's program here, we had a program in this center here, and there were about 40, 50 people. And they were all learning about yoga for older people. So when we talk about these things, we specifically focus on, okay, when you grow older, what happens to your nerves, what happens to your muscles, and the blood circulation, all these things, and we bring up more. And so I was quite, of course, we always can do better, but I was happy they pay attention, they make notes, and they could answer questions, they could ask questions. And so actually the knowledge we share every Monday night is helpful when we communicate with the public and introduce yoga from a scientific and mostly physiological point. And so I very much appreciate your every time you spend time for this work, online activity. The second thing I wanted to share with you is that because many of you have been regular, and I feel um, I encourage you very much to become a teacher of yoga psychology to others. So, sorry. And so when you attended the first one-day workshop, I gave a teacher's guide, and now I have adjusted the contents. I made it simpler. So if you are interested to have the updated teacher's guide, I would request you to write me personally on WhatsApp, and I will send you the teacher's guide that I'm using here now. I found that the original teacher's guide was too much for people to digest even in 2 days workshop. So I made some changes. And because every Monday night when you listen and you follow and you do some review, I think you have the capacity to become a teacher. And you know, one thing I learned is that when we teach others, we learn ourselves so much. So I encourage you very much to maybe just with your Margi community, or maybe with you make a regular yoga psychology program and develop your skill to express these ideas to the public. And so that is the second thing I wanted to share with you. And just one is that um, this is a good idea to use this poster, this style of, if I'm very much against PowerPoints, and PowerPoints make people feel, because you turn off the light. So when you turn off the light, most people already feel kind of drowsy. And then PowerPoints don't allow much creativity in the class. So there's not much spontaneous interaction. But like, for example, when I did this with them, we don't know what's coming up. Myself, I don't know what's coming up. So I'm focused, they are focused. And so it's more fun. And so there is a kind of spontaneity that makes the whole program flow. And so that I encourage you very much to try this out. And you don't need to worry too much, and just you have to remember the main points for every system. And so these are the first two things I wanted to share with you. And then we continue with our yoga physiology, the science of asanas, the biopsychology. And last week we talked about the muscles, and I think you try to keep in mind the main points. Okay, there are a lot of details we don't need to know. If you know them, is good, and it can help you explore more. But if you feel this is enough, then you focus. At least remember that we use the muscles to activate the nerves, and that's the first point. And so that if we don't use the muscles, the nerves that stimulate those muscle cells also become weaker, and this will affect our whole mental functioning. So physical movement is still very important, even for a great meditator. And the second one we mentioned is that our style of stretching is isometric, and so we stretch slowly. So we hold the pulse, and by holding the pulse, we slowly stretch out the muscles, and we have talked about the tissue around the muscle and myofascia. Myofascia has more resistance than muscle cells themselves. So a lot of the stretching effort actually affects the tissue around the muscles. Now, from the energy point of view, we discussed this tissue is important for energy flow. And so when the prana or the chi actually flows through mostly through the myofascia and not through the muscles themselves. And we discussed that holding a stretch for more than 20 seconds will, will activate a muscle relaxer response from the brain. And so in our Baba system, we do it 8 seconds and then we go back and we do 8 seconds and go back. Now from the third or the fourth time, and after repeating 8 seconds, the brain will allow the muscles to relax more and stretch more. And so our approach to this stretching is repetition and holding it. And so for 8 seconds when it's with breathing. Now the benefit of that is that it is very safe. And so for example, if you do one pose and you hold it for 5 minutes, and then actually it can become maybe too much for the muscles too, and there will be injury, and this we want to avoid at all costs. And I see Baba's yoga style is very safe. Then we mentioned about the 3 different kinds of muscle cells. We talked about fast twitch, medium twitch, and slow twitch. And so the yoga poses we do with the slow breathing or with holding the breath develops the slow twitch muscles, which helps in stability and it helps in endurance. So the marathon runners, they have, I think, 20 or 30% more slow muscle than other people. And sprinters, people who run maybe 60 meters or 100 meters, they have a lot of fast fibers who can fire fast and move fast. And so this is more for the nervous disposition. The marathon runner has to have slow fiber muscles for long distance. Now in yoga, we develop the slow twitch muscles. So this allows for endurance, and we all know that yogis usually have better endurance than other people. Then we talked about the agonist and antagonist. And so when we stretch, the one muscle will contract, the other muscle will relax. So the muscle that contracts is called the agonist, and the muscle that relaxes is called antagonist. Now people found out that when you engage and when you tense up the antagonist, the muscle that usually is relaxed, it allows for a greater stretch with the agonist. And so let's say you stretch this way. So here you contract these muscles, and then if you also contract these muscles, the body's response will be you can go down deeper into the pose. I felt, I try to teach this to my yoga students, and my yoga class is very inner focused. So once you start talking to them about these things, they focus on their muscles, then I feel it distracts from the main purpose. We talked last week, we also talked about injuries, and we talked especially about the tendons. Tendon injuries are very hard to work with, and so we mentioned we should take rest for 2-3 weeks. If it doesn't recover, then we should slowly start stretching without putting too much strain on the injured joint. And today we will talk more about that when we talk about the skeletal system. And so if you have these stiff muscles and it doesn't recover quickly, then consider that uh, uh, gently do some, still use the muscle, otherwise it will become weaker and the problem will only get worse. I think these are most of the most main points and we mentioned. Last time we have talked about this if muscles twitching or shaking. Of course, there can be other reasons, and maybe it is electrolytes in the body are not balanced or the muscles will shake. And usually in yoga students get good diet. And so if muscles if people are shaking, um, just tell them we, we are growing the nerves back to the muscles. So um, last Saturday here we had one speaker and he is an Olympic trainer, and he says if people shake, he wants them to keep going on doing the pose till they don't shake. Means his idea is we want to retrain these muscles who have not been used regularly. So I think these are very important points for any yoga teacher to know and apply and discuss with the students. Now today we are going to the skeletal system. And actually I noticed I didn't write much in your teacher's guide. Anyway, the main point for us to remember is that we have to engage the bones. We have to keep putting pressure on all the bones. And later we're going to look at Baba's asanas, and actually we see a perfect system. Baba has actually poses for each and every joint of the body. And so sometimes we look at Baba's asanas and we compare to outside, we don't see because we don't know the speciality. But so the main point is that if we put pressure on the bones remain more healthy. And so this is an important point for the immune system. And that in the first 10 to 12 years of our life, we have the thymus gland that helps with the T cells, with the white blood cells, with the immune cells. And after that, the thymus will shrivel away and all our immune cells actually are produced in the bone marrow. And they're called B leukocytes. So the bone's health is important for our immune system. Now the bone's health has to do with circulation. It has to do with engagement of the bones. And so we put pressure on the bones, and this will help blood circulation around the muscles, around the bones, and it will also help blood circulation to the bones. So the main point I feel to remember is that we have to challenge ourselves. Now, if we look at Baba's asanas, if we look at Baba's asanas, we see, for example, we do Dirga Pranam. And so the long salute, you pay attention to the toes. And so here we are putting pressure on the toes. And some students feel discomfort. We tell them you have to put pressure on the joints of the toes, and you have to put on the toe bones, and so for good health. Baba has this Jatila Utkatasana. Again, here we are using the toes and the ankles, and so there is much pressure. Of course, there's pressure on the knees as well. And so here the Baba's poses actually engage all these joints. Now, I don't think many of you are teaching this asana. And I have divided the asanas in 3 levels, A, B, C. So this is a C level asana. It's more difficult. So, but maybe we can understand the logic why Baba chose this pose, and we can maybe find a replacement. And so, for example, for the toes, every class, almost every class, I have my students stand on their toes. And so stand straight, and they stand on their toes, and they keep engaged. Now, we have discussed already that a lot of the health of the bones relies on the health of the muscles. So by engaging the foot muscles more, there is better circulation. So the foot bones, they are going to be healthier. And so when we engage the muscles of those bones, it can help the bones. And of course, there's pressure on the bones. So this also affects the health of the bones. So maybe we cannot do the pose as Baba prescribes, but maybe we can replace with some other poses that can have this benefit at least. These are for the toes and the ankles. Baba's chair pose. Actually, Baba's chair pose is not like this. The hands are, Baba's pose, the hands are forward. But here again, we engage the knee. And so here, the knees muscles become strengthened. When the knee muscles are healthier, the joints will be protected better. And so it is important that we do this different. In every class, I always focus on all the joints. In every class, I have my schedule for, okay, I have to do the twists and the chest opening, the pelvis for the pulses and the throats, but also the joints. So do more knee stretches and then engage the knee muscles. Now, Baba has this Dvisamakonasana. Dvisamakonasana is one of those C-level poses that most people don't manage to learn. Actually, it's very hard. But anyway, Baba has one chair pose where the leg goes up. So there the person is standing on one leg and is engaging the knees muscles. So maybe we cannot do Dvisamakonasana the way Baba prescribes it, but maybe we can just lift one leg, maybe just 10 centimeters. So put all the stress on the other leg and put much more stress on the knee muscles. So when you see your students can do the chair pose and hold it, and you have to keep in mind, Baba says 30 seconds and then repeat 4 times. That is a challenge for most students. And so I usually cannot keep them for that long with my students. But what I do is I do it in 3 steps. So the first chair pose they do is maybe like this. And then I tell them, okay, now we go lower. So we bend the lower. That's the second. And then the third, again, we bend lower. And then they manage 30 seconds when we add up. And then when we come to the third step, if they are still good and they're not shaking, then I ask them lift up one leg. And you know, Dvisamakonasana is very hard. Most of us, we don't manage that one unless we use the wall. And so it doesn't matter. We follow the spirit of the pose. And so here we engage the knees. Now, and we have to keep in mind, and this Saturday, this speaker said, most people's knees are okay for the first 60 years of their lives. And after this, the first 60 years, they get problems. And so then his approach was that we have to learn to walk differently. And actually, he says we have to learn to walk with putting less pressure on the knees. And but I didn't mention because we have our approach. We say, no, we train the knee muscles better. So this one is helping with, specifically, of course, with other things as well, with the knees. And so we have Baba's asanas help with the toes, with the knees, and then we come to the balancing poses. So here we engage very much, of course, the whole leg and the pelvis. And so here the stretch up, and similar is like this pose, the Garudasana. And this is a pose unique to Baba's asanas. I have not seen this type of pose anywhere else. And so the Garudasana in Baba's system is that you bring up one leg backwards with one hand front and one hand back. And you cannot move the body forward or backward. It's a very tough pose that stretches very much the lower back muscle. And again, Baba's prescription, 4 times 30 seconds. And this is very tough, very challenging pose. And of course, if you train them in Shalabhasana, because this is basically like a Shalabhasana, but then you lift standing in the standing position. And so Shalabhasana engages similar muscles, so both poses can benefit very much, strengthening the lower back. Now we have to keep again in mind, strengthening the muscles around the pelvis also benefits the hip bones. And so always keep in mind that what you stretch, what the benefit is, it is also flowing towards the health of your bone, and the bones are healthy, it benefits the immune system. So we have the toes, the knees, the hips. Of course, there are other poses for this. I don't know if you practice this one. I have not seen many Margis practice this, but I love to do this with our students. And it's very similar to the horse pose in Qigong. And the horse pose is considered like the most powerful Qigong exercise. And so here the toes are pointing outwards and we bend the knee. So we engage the knee muscles, we engage the muscle of the ankles. And here again, we adjust the hip position. And so here the lower back muscles are engaged. And because we cannot bend forward or bend backwards, the shoulders are above the hips. And we keep this pose because again, we go one side and then the other side and then the hands on the back and the hands on the front. So every one cycle is 30 seconds, 30 plus seconds. So we keep for 2-3 minutes. And usually it's very challenging. But what is happening here, and this is, again, we engage the hip muscles, the knee muscles, the ankles, and all this activity strengthens the energy here, and we call the apanasana. But because the whole focus is on the Trikuti, on the Agya chakra, so it draws up the energy to the Agya chakra. And when you practice, you will feel a strong energy flow in your third eye. And so this pose, very, again, unique to Baba's asanas and very powerful for drawing up energy from the base to the top. So again, this is hips. Now then, a spine. Many people practice a lot of back bends. In Baba's system, we have the we do have the Gomukhasana, the cow's head pose, but I wanted to show you first this one. It is of course it works on the lower back, but it also stretches the the upper the chest area. So the we engage the spine and then we relax. We engage the spine and we relax. So the spinal health is also important for our whole nerve system and uh, other systems and the blood flow to the brain. And so we mentioned this before. And if we don't move the spine regularly, it will become calcified. It will become solid and it will lose its range of motion. And range of motion naturally already becomes less, but if people don't do exercise, it becomes worse. And so twisting and moving up and down the spine are still important. And so Baba's system, we have this, and Baba doesn't teach the cat pose. Cat pose, cat and cow. Right? So when you cat pose, you push down the belly and you open up the chest and the throat. And cow pose, you curve the spine and move inwards. So these poses all work on spinal health. And so the things are there in Baba's 42 asanas. And we can extend the same concept to other poses. And of course, here we come to the chest opening and shoulder opening poses. The Baba only has these two. And if we don't count and some of the more difficult poses, and like Baba has this one, this Granthi Muktasana, so means this one is actually for all the joints. And so here you see it's the joint loosening pose. And so you have the ankle, the knee, the pelvis, and then of course there is the shoulders. So, and most people cannot do this pose. So we have to do it in different other ways. So Gomukhasana is one, and there are many other shoulder and chest opening poses we can add on if people and then the arm the pose with Mayurasana. So here the body's weight comes on the arms. So whether they can do the pose or not, from the bone point of health, and even if they put the toes on the floor, and you could adjust the pose and not make it so hard for the students. And so they can, maybe they cannot lift up, but just let them, their toes be on the floor. And so most of their body weight still comes on their elbows. And of course, this is good for the stomach, but keep in mind, this is also good for the bone health. And so this kind of pressure on the bones helps the bones to produce more immune cells. And then of course Baba has the poses for the neck and the throat. And so when you look at it from the point of view of the joints, in Baba's asanas, you can find poses for all the joints. And whether you feel it's enough or not is up to you, I think, and up to your students. And Baba said these poses are specifically chosen for doing sadhana. And so Baba encourages the practice of these poses for meditation, for balancing the glands, but Baba also said other poses also can be beneficial. So I think this is a choice we all make from time to time. And so I sometimes Margis come to my yoga class and then they say, hey, this is not in Baba's yoga asanas. And I tell them, yeah, because my students cannot do the all the asanas that Baba prescribes there. So I prepare them, or I help them in other ways to achieve similar objectives. So I think this is something everybody has to decide for themselves. So we have already seen that bones need pressure to be healthy. And so, for example, the bones of a tennis player and the bones of the arms of a tennis player, they are more dense, 20% more dense than non-playing arm. And so if they always maybe use the right arm to hit the ball, so they put more circulation in the right arm and the right shoulder. So the bones are becoming 20% denser. And if they don't use arm, their arm will lose the bone density by 1% per week. And so let's say if we don't move our body and we need to take a rest for 1 week, our bone density will reduce by 1%. So keeping the bones engaged is very important. Otherwise, they become weak and they lose calcium. Now, this is one point I didn't mention yet, is that the calcium is very important our uh, for our neural functioning. And so if the bones have not enough calcium, because the bones are like the calcium bank of the body. And so when the body needs calcium, they take it from the bones. Now, if the bones have a low density, it means that they become weaker and weaker. And there will not be enough calcium to function well, and this will affect the glands and the nerves, and it also affects the muscle strength. And so always doing some kind of labor, physical labor, for physical health, mental health is still very important, even whatever age we are. And so I'm always very thankful. Baba has a Master Unit program. Master Unit, there's always a lot of physical job to be done. And then actually, sometimes people, they tell me, why don't you just call somebody, pay somebody to do the job? And I always think, it is good for my body and to put some heavy, heavy challenge on my body. Of course, not in excess, but keep in mind, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So this putting pressure on the bones in asana class is beneficial to the students. So these are the main points I wanted to mention. And so one is the immune system, the bones, healthy functioning, supports the immune response of the body. And the second is that it helps with the glands and the nerves of uh, the body. And so if there is less calcium in the bones, then it can become muscles become tense, or they can spasm, or they can have stiffness. And so calcium is still important. Now, I do not know about you. Nowadays many yogis, and though we were encouraged to drink milk to make the nerves stronger, I don't know if you remember when you got your first lesson, we were encouraged to drink more milk to increase the strength of the nerves. And the reason is calcium. And so we don't just need to drink milk, we also can get calcium from maybe sesame seeds and black sesame, or there are other sources of calcium. milk has many other problems, and osteoporosis. I don't know if you know that is where actually the bone's density becomes weaker and weaker. And this is a problem that happens due to too much protein in the body. So people who eat meat or drink a lot of milk products, their their bodies become acidic, and acidic uh, cells will draw the calcium out of the bones. So people who have a diet that is almost, maybe it's vegan or plant-based, they have more calcium than people who eat meat and drink a lot of milk. And so this is also to keep in mind that our diet can very much affect the health of our bones. So these are the main points I wanted to mention. Um, so it helps immune system, and it helps with the strong bones have means we have a more active nerve system than now if a joint is warm, and that means if their knee feels warm, it means it's inflamed, and then maybe it needs little rest. And so these are considerations for you when you give your class. I'm wondering if anybody has any questions about our bones. And I think there's one more important point is why we don't do headstand. I've mentioned it before, um, but again, because today we're talking about bones, we can talk more detail. And our skull is made up of different pieces of bone, and these pieces actually they are dynamic, and so they can move, and so there is the joint between the plates of the bones of the skull. They they there is there is some space, and sometimes it can open more and sometimes less. Now let's say we do headstand, and by putting all the body's pressure on the head, we put too much pressure on the skull bones, and it will make the skull bones become solidified. Means they become physically, maybe they're stronger, but they don't allow for the movement. Now this movement of the skull bones has is related to our cerebral spinal fluid. And so the cerebral spinal fluid has a rhythm, has its own. It's not affected by breathing, and it's not affected by the heart. It has its own flow. And so if the skull bones are static, are in a fixed position, it will affect cerebral spinal fluid flow. And this again may affect our brain functioning. So keep in mind, and we don't put this kind of pressure on our skull bones. Yeah, I don't know if anybody has any question about this. Kalyani, you always have good questions.
My question is actually, I think Chitra also asked, I have a problem with my knee for many years because I have an injury before, many years, about maybe 20 years ago. So, in fact, I actually severed the anterior cruciate ligament, but then I had like a miracle healing and it joined back. But I think there was an injury from there. And now for many years, I cannot fold the leg and I cannot do Guru Puja. or long salutation, you know, that I cannot put weight in the very inner part of the knee. The pain is very bad. So what can I do?
Yeah. So online, I mentioned what I do. If I see my students are not comfortable with kneeling down, I place a small pillow or a yoga block between the buckets and the buttocks and the heels. And so that releases some of the pressure on the knees. Um,
I still cannot do that.
yeah, then I think you just have to sit with your legs crossed or with your legs stretched out. I don't think there's, you know, this is not a big crime. And so if people's bodies have limitations, then we have to adjust our yoga. It's not that you have to adjust to the, so I think we just adjust the practices you do. But I would still do knee exercises lying down and to slowly strengthen the knees. And I don't know, walking is okay for you, right?
Um, yes, walking is okay.
Maybe I should mention what this coach, and he last we had a program here and there were three speakers. I was one and there were other two. What he said is because many people, and here also many people come with knee problems, and actually it's prevalent. It's really true. The knees last 60 years, and after that become a problem for many people. He mentioned to reduce the pressure on the knee when walking or climbing stairs or when going down the stairs is move the bottom back a little. And so he says normally people walk straight up. So he said move your when you move the the buttocks backwards a little, you release pressure on the knees and you put more pressure on the hips. And this is something you really have to try because I heard his talk about this twice now. And and it takes time to really catch it. But the body mechanics is like that when you walk straight up, it put full pressure on your knees. When you move when you move your shoulders a little forward and the buttocks backwards a little, okay? It's not like we are monkeys, but we move it back slightly. You will find that the knees get less pressure. And this kind of walking, and he promotes, every time I hear his talk, he promotes this for older people. And I tried it because it also avoids lower back pain. So it is something you can try because knees are still very important for our lifestyle. So,
Mhm.
but I wouldn't feel guilty about the yoga asanas if you cannot do the ones that engage the knees too much.
Mm-mm.
But there may be, because yeah, um, here we have one person, he comes for this massage and he's a teacher for this and they have points they press for doing massage to release the pain of the knees. And I see some people get benefit. I don't know if you have tried these things, um,
Mm. Okay.
but I see it's better for most people. I don't see I can really cure. I've not seen people really get cured with yoga, doing yoga poses to make the knees stronger. Most of the time, uh, what I see is that yoga can prevent, but I don't see that. I have not seen my students become better. So their knee problems, they have the two problems here. One is shoulders and one is knees. And shoulder problems, because people fall down and then they hurt their shoulders, and then They come to yoga class and say, what can you do for my shoulder? And I kind of feel guilty, because, I say, oh, man, I can only make you happy. I cannot cure your shoulder because I'm not a physiotherapist. We don't learn the yoga that way. Anyway, I see happiness is also important to them. Yeah. So sorry, the knee
Okay.
problem is really
Thank you.
something I am. But I see it's good to do asanas to prevent, and then how to cure knee problem with asanas. Maybe others have more experience with this, but myself, I have not.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I hope from what I share with you today is that do challenging poses, do poses that engage your muscles, that require strength and endurance. And so when you, like Baba says, 30 seconds, we try it. In our personal practice, try it. Holding poses for that long. Baba says shoulder stands for up to 5 minutes. I think most of us don't do that. But I think Baba's idea is that we have to engage the muscles, we have to engage the joints, we have to engage the whole body circulation and to get all the benefits. So it's not just we do gentle only yoga mudra and dirga pranam. We have to put some pressure on the body, and it's
what about the plank? Is it good?
I think so. But it's not in Baba's system, but I consider it a preparatory pose for hand balancing poses. So Baba has Kukutasana, which is the rooster pose, hand balancing. Now we have to develop the shoulder strength. So I encourage you, plank pose. Baba has this Ustrasasana, the camel pose, is also core strengthening. So Baba's asanas, there is muscle building. Even in Shiniyacharya diary, Baba writes that
this
pose is very good for bodybuilders. So means to say, actually, Baba's poses, Baba said, if you do regular asanas, your body becomes healthy and hardy. And means to say, you become strong and you can have more strength for meditation. So I think this mentality that we only, Baba's poses are only gentle poses, this is very wrong. Baba's poses sometimes very, very challenging, and most people cannot keep it. And to build up strength like plank pose, I would encourage you. Side plank, use one arm and then on the other arm is up. Or side plank with one arm up and one leg also up and the other leg is down. I think we should all do this, and to build up strength of the muscles. And muscles are stronger, your bones will be stronger. Your bones are stronger, you have better immune system, you have better, healthier nerves. So I think all these things are so interconnected. But I hope from today you can remember that sweat, go and sweat. You have to train yourself to build up your muscle strength, your bone strength.
I have a question that is not related to this. It's about I find recently that when I do yoga mudra and also the hand and leg pose, when I bend down and then when I come up, I have some air coming up. Is that very unusual, or is that a problem or not?
You mean air in your lungs or?
Air from, I think because my stomach is like squeezed, you know, pressed down. Then when I come up, the air comes out. It's a bit like a burp, but not
Oh,
really, just
really?
coming out.
Yeah, I think this is the digestive issue. It's maybe. Do you do every morning Ukepa Mudra?
No.
No, I would, you know what, here, and of course, I have somebody takes care of me, at least some way. So every morning, Mama Mukta prepares lemon water with salt. And, and so every morning, I drink this lemon water with salt, and then I do my asanas. And because we have this online asana activity, so every morning I have to do asanas, 4 or 5 asanas with the students online, and I find this cleans out all digestive problems. I think lemon water and then Ukepa Mudra, Paschimottanasana, these are nice, and then in the morning we also do Uddiyana Bandha and we do Agnisara Mudra, all digestive mudra poses. So I think if you have air, it it means that you, because usually air has to go down, right? It shouldn't come up. So
Mm.
I think drink lemon water every morning before your asanas.
Oh, okay.
And then you do the asana. You know, when you feel comfortable, do the asanas and include Uddiyana Bandha and Ukepa Mudra and Agnisara Mudra. These are very, very nice poses for.
Can you put it down? Because I don't know the names.
Oh, okay. I can send you the pictures. I will send it to the group.
The group. Yeah, thank you.
Because I think this is every morning we have to do this. And in the body, in the morning, you cannot do too much stretching anyway. So we do all the digestive process.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
digestion is important. All right. So we are going to our yoga psychology. Okay. So the yoga of emotions. And so remember what I mentioned in the beginning of the class. If you want to have the new, this is the what I originally gave everybody, and now I have made some changes. And if you want to have the new version, you could write me. I will send it to you. And so I saw that Chitra and Tripti, they sent in their homework, and I think everybody encouraged very much to look at Chitra's homework. She used different colors for different chakras, so it's very clear which vrittis, which chakras she's talking about. And from that analysis, you also can see which chakra is more dominant in her personality. And I think this is a very nice activity. And today we are talking about relationships and the vrittis. And I don't know if you remember, we mentioned before that this every chakra can correspond with an archetype of the Jungian psychology. And so the Muladhara chakra, with the root chakra, we we link it up with the innocent personality. And the second chakra, the orphan, the third chakra, the warrior, the fourth chakra is the idealist, the fifth chakra, the magician. Now, Jungian philosophy doesn't talk about the higher levels of consciousness. And so ourselves, we put the devotee as the sixth, and the Agya chakra is the devotee, and the seventh chakra is the guru. And so we have related these ones to Jungian philosophy, Jungian psychology. And of course, Jung, he went to India. So I'm sure he learned a lot about Asian concepts. And maybe he just translated it to Western uh, expression. Now, many of our relationships are based on vrittis. And there can be usually you admire something in somebody else because the other person has the qualities that you don't have and that you feel sorry, you feel this person can help you grow or can compensate or balance you. And so, um, now of course, it's much more complex than only vrittis. Relationships, there are also samskaras. So, but the um, here today we want to focus on the vritti side of relationships. So if when people connect with each other, and very likely is that both are orphan. Orphan means you're on the second chakra level and you feel not appreciated, you don't feel loved enough, and you always, even though the people may be very good to you, you are in a phase in your life where you feel you want more love. And so usually two people, both are orphans, and they will look, they want to be saved by each other. And so an orphan relationship is about mutual dependency. And uh, in some way, this need for companionship and support is there in every relationship. And maybe more or less, but this affects some people. But if people are only stuck in the orphan relationship and they don't develop new qualities, it's very unlikely that this relationship can survive because both are orphans and both always lack love. Even they are together 24 hours a day, they still feel they don't get enough support. It's not because of the other person, it is because the inner disposition is you feel insecure, you feel abandoned, you feel uh, paranoia, you easily misunderstand situations in your life and it can become violent. So many of these orphan relationships see everything as a threat and they don't really survive. So it's likely that the person will leave and this kind of a situation. Now, unfortunately, most relationships in the world are orphan. And so this is an issue that we see around us a lot. Now, uh, let's say somebody is in a relationship with an orphan and a warrior. And so let's say, usually it's the female, she wants companionship, she wants protection. And so she looks for a man who has the warrior qualities, means he he is capable to earn money, he has power, and he has, force. And so that's why, um, many women, they feel a man in a uniform is very attractive. Soldiers, or police officers, firefighters. These are all heroes and warrior person. And so an orphan woman, maybe, or let's say an orphan man, I shouldn't be like that, and will look for a woman or a man, a partner who has the warrior qualities. And this kind of relationship um, may work for some time, but orphans want to grow up. And so orphans, let's say the orphan in the relationship wants to develop his or her own career and develop her own independence. maybe the partner, the warrior partner, will feel threatened. And so sometimes you'll find in this kind of relationship, if the if the orphan in the relationship becomes independent and becomes successful, it is the partner in the warrior, who will sabotage or undermine the success of the what was originally the orphan in the relationship. And so this kind of dynamic is also, it can work for many people, but sooner or later the warrior has to accept that the other partner uh, also can grow. Now let's say there's the orphan and the idealist. And so an orphan, they um, want to be rescued. Now the idealist, it means the person who has, hope, and they want to rescue somebody. And so let's say somebody has the dreams and has the drive to help others and sacrifice. So in this relationship, orphan and idealist, they can work together quite well. And this kind of relationship, because it's already closer to the spirituality, there is more long-term uh, hope. And so all these relationships, and we see these relationships, that there is a different dynamic, and all these dynamics can change. Now, actually, for these relationships to continue long term, um, it is spirituality is important, and because this original dynamic will change. So I always remember that Baba used to say that once I remember this story that one man came to DMC and Baba's program in India, and Baba gives Varabhaya Mudra. And then Baba asked, why did you not bring your wife? Why did you not bring your family? And Baba said, families should develop spirituality together. And I think in a relationship, we can analyze many people around us, and actually we see that that if they have a higher goal together, whatever their condition, whether they're orphan or they're warrior or they're idealist, if there is spiritual goal, that relationship can more harmoniously move forward. And so I think this is something we also can discuss with our Margi family, and that the 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 spiritual goal is we have to grow together. Now, I know in many of our classes we usually get mostly female attendance, and so the participants in the workshops and in the asana classes usually are more female than male. So many females, they like their partners to become more spiritual. So let's say that the partner, and most men are engaged with their career. And so most men are busy with the warrior mentality. So to move him out of a warrior mentality into spirituality may be very difficult. Um, but what is possible is to do the next step is to do service, means to develop the fourth chakra qualities. So in this relationship, um, try to encourage the man to go help other people, or to do something for an ideal, and not only for personal career or personal name or fame, but for selflessness. And so this is the first step we can encourage the partner in a relationship towards spirituality. And once a person is more engaged in the fourth chakra, it's easier to move towards full spirituality, means the fifth or sixth or seventh chakra. And so this is my advice always when I meet people, that they always want their husbands to get involved with the spirituality, and then they are maybe the wife is vegetarian and the husband is still a meat eater, or you know all these kind of considerations happen, and they would like their family all to be in a spiritual flow. Now, my advice from what I understand from yoga psychology is you have to go step by step. You cannot ask somebody to, unless there is special samskara, but you cannot expect that person to move forward so quickly. And now the second thing I always mention is that the role of the woman uh, in in a relationship uh, is to help the husband to come back to spirituality. And because the husband, the man, usually the man is so much engaged in the career, and of course nowadays I shouldn't say only the woman, the man. Maybe the woman also is engaged in the career. But when we look at um, at the traditional role of the woman, doesn't matter whether it's a woman or a man, in a relationship, one of the partners has the role to bring the other partner back towards spirituality. And I always like to share this story of Ariadne. It is in the Greek mythology and Perseus. And so this is the, when I will tell it very quickly, but in there was a Minotaur. The Minotaur in the Greek mythology is half bull and half human. And he was locked up in a labyrinth. And the king had built this labyrinth so the Minotaur could never get out. And so this labyrinth was very complex. But every year, this Minotaur had to eat people. And so the king would conquer another country, and then every year that country would have to bring people to be eaten by the Minotaur. So one day there came this handsome prince, and there was the princess Ariadne, and she fell in love with him, and she wanted to go back with him, but he had to be offered to the Minotaur. So he gave this prince a roll of wool, and he says, when you go in, you unroll the wool so you know how to come back. And so this prince killed the Minotaur, and then because he had the wool, he could find the way back out of the labyrinth. And I always use this story to show that, in a relationship, usually there's one partner more involved with the material care of the family or the unit, and the other partner has to provide the wool, the thread of wool to bring that person back from the material into the inner focus. And so in a relationship, and we have different roles, and we have to accept that. But if we can all come together in spirituality, we have to go step by step. This is what I wanted to share today about relationships and vrittis. And in your teacher's guide, there are two questions, and maybe in the chat group you can work on this. And there are some activities we can play with the cards to, with partners can work together to understand what is my, what do I see as what hurts me, what do you do to me that hurts me, and how do I handle it. So we can use our cards to analyze our relationship. I will share that game, that activity in the chat group. It's not in your teacher's guide. And also, there are 4 cards. Anyway, I can mention shortly. There are 4 cards. The first cards, so both partners, they choose the cards, and they choose the cards that hurt them. Means the other person has an emotion or an issue that hurts. So one partner identifies what is painful, and what does the partner use to overcome this pain, and what does the partner want you to develop, and what is the future of your relationship. And this is very interesting, especially if you do this with the person you live with regularly. And so what hurts that person? What hurts that person to you? How do you manage that pain? And the anger or the fear or the anxiety or the jealousy or the greediness or whatever that is, how do you manage that pain? Then what would you like the partner to develop? And then the fourth, how do you see the future of your relationship with this partner? And so 4 cards. Okay, so first card is what hurts the other person, what hurts you, and what does the other person do that hurts you. The second card is how do you manage that hurt. The third card is what would you like your partner to develop. And the fourth card is what is your future, how do you see the relationship's direction. And I think that's a very interesting activity to try to do with your the person you live with. I don't know if anybody has anything. This is a very interesting topic, and I think usually in meditation, Dharma Chakra also we talk about Paramapurusha, and I think for many people they have to see the connection between the spiritual practice and their social life and their family situation, and I think this is maybe can integrate it more deeply. Anybody, any question? Didyananda Suveda, any question?
Just now you were telling do more exercise to sweat for the asanas, yeah?
Yeah.
Then after sweat, because that's my problem in the yoga class now. After the sweat so much, how to do the massage?
Oh, really?
It become very sticky.
Oh, you don't have aircon?
No, we our people we don't have aircon.
Well, ask them to bring a small towel.
Yeah.
Bring a towel to class. I see my students when they sweat, wipe it off.
Yeah. Sometimes we eat a lot. Even myself, I sweat.
Yeah.
Even I use a towel, still cannot, just before massage.
I guess you people, because Indonesia, you already sweat before doing us. Malaysia also. I remember we went to this yoga studio in Kuala Lumpur, and there was no aircon, and we had like 30 people in a 25 square meter room, and everybody was sweating. It was the happiest class of my life. I think towels. Bring towels, Didi.
Yes, we always have.
Yeah, I think you can. But you know, yeah. Now I don't know. Now it's winter. In Taiwan, we have winter. We feel a little bit cold. But anyway, yoga has to sweat, and the reason some sweat, of course, is because it is release of tension in the body, and so heat leaves the body. Even you don't do much of asanas, people already sweat because it is tension that comes out. And I think a small towel or fan or aircon will be helpful. And otherwise, just massage with sweat.
Yeah, that's what we do.
It's our own sweat, so we don't need to touch other people. Yeah, this is a good point. Any other question about these relationships, yoga psychology?
I would like to ask a question. Yeah, it's not only about relationship with a partner, but let's say with other people. Because I think sometimes when the other person is different in the sense that maybe they like they have other values, or they do something that makes you angry or upset, and they believe in something differently, or and then how do you handle that, if you get very angry and upset about that?
Yeah, I think there are two things, and one of the first thing is and this we have discussed in yoga psychology many times, is we want to go, and Baba teaches us to go beyond vritti thinking, and so this whatever happens in our life, and especially people close to us, they can trigger all kinds of reactions, and we have to learn to overcome this. And so the purpose of our yoga practice, meditation, asana, diet, is to actually go beyond these vritti expressions. And so every time there's a complex relationship with anger or with fear or anxiety or jealousy, whatever comes up, actually we have to learn to look beyond that. And I think this only because we have spirituality. So relationship, it cannot be based on only on the vrittis. A lasting relationship has to have a spiritual focus. And so usually, and people, when like in relationship, we usually grow to a greater purpose. So we overcome our own weaknesses, and in the process, we develop greater focus on what unites us and what unites maybe all of life or all of the universe. And I think this, I would not give in to jealousy or anger. And I think this is every personal level. As a sadhaka, we cannot allow anger in our heart. So even we feel injustice, or we can fight injustice, but not with anger. And so I think, from my perspective, and if from my experience, is that if there is a, let's say the other part, the person has a vritti expression, and it is very uncomfortable or very hard to accept, I must keep my balance, and I have to learn to look beyond this, and try to balance the other person. And maybe because I'm a water person, water earth person, so that's my nature anyway. I know a fire person will say, no, I'm going to make a revolution and I'm going to fight back. But as I think as sadhakas, we should not give in to these vrittis, and if they happen in another person, we have to understand. Oh, there, just give more time, because this is also a sadhaka, and this person will overcome this kind of issue, and then we can talk. So this we mentioned this once before in our yoga psychology discussion. Like in Europe, I saw my brother's wife. My brother made a very negative comment, and I saw she immediately fought back. And afterwards, I mentioned to her that says, what if I do like this, the problem become worse. And so if I think everybody has to see their own situation. She had her thinking. Her reply was that she read in a magazine that if somebody attacks you and you don't let that person know immediately this is wrong, then that person will attack you again and again and again. And I told her that my approach is that my experience is that if I attack, the situation only becomes bigger fire. So my approach to this is that I give the other person time to consider and rethink and then discuss and how to move forward. And so I think everybody has a different situation, according personality situation. And so in different cultures, you have different conflict resolution mechanisms. And one in India, there are tribal cultures, and they have no violence. And their culture is a non-violent culture. And their approach is avoiding. And so let's say there's discomfort in a relationship, they keep distance. So they just don't deal with the matter and they leave it. I think society can progress when we learn how to communicate more and deal with our problems together better. But this is how they do it. The Eskimos also, traditionally there's no person-to-person violence in Eskimo societies. They also, they avoid, they don't fight back. And so different, and this is very interesting. Well, I studied this thing, non-violent societies. And on our planet, there are societies where people don't kill each other. And there are other problems, but they're called non-killing societies. If you want to go online, it's very interesting. There's academic studies on non-killing societies. And so they've done research on societies where for 3 generations nobody was killed. And that is considered a non-killing society. So for example, the Amish in North America, the Amish, they are Christian, very traditional people, and they don't kill each other. If they're angry, the men all have beards, so if one man is angry with the other man, he will cut the beard of the other man. And this is their expression of violence. So there are some Pacific islands where there's no violence, but there are many other issues, and they have problems with subjugation of women, or there are many other social issues. We would say, this is also not a fair society. But what I learned from it is like you have the Ashaborang in Malaysia. They are considered a non-killing society. The tribal people in Malaysia, and they're included in this study. And so when others express as sadhakas, I think we have a perspective that can help us look beyond the emotion. And I think our meditation helps us cultivate this. And so we observe, we can see, we can we know how to deal with it. And according to the person, whether we should immediately point out or whether we should give time or whether we should leave it because we know it's like barking, the dog will bark, but maybe not bite.
Yeah, I think it's, I mean, we're not talking about killing, not talking about killing. All right. But let's say, do you tell the other person or do you correct, if you think they are wrong? Is it wise to do that? Because sometimes I think you know whether they will accept or they cannot accept.
So I think it depends on the situation. And the other day we had a program, and one mother, she was, and I was mentioning, it was a parents and kids program, and then there was a mother. I know her. She is a yoga student in our center, and I mentioned to the parents that, hey, children have stress. I said, children have stress. So this mother was next to me with her daughter, and she was doing massage. She said, hey, do you have stress? And I look at her and say, hey, more gentle, please. And then she changed her tune. And so she accepted immediately. And after 2-3 days, she came for class. She said, hey, Tang Lao, so thank you. Sometimes I'm too impatient with my daughter. And so she accepted immediately. Some other people, if you tell like that, they will not come again. They will just react and they say this. So I think it all depends. I think there's no single answer for that. And there in Ananda Marga, actually, we also don't really have an open discussion on this kind of, issues. And Baba suggested the silent action. So let's say something is there and we don't agree, and maybe we are not in a position to point out the other person's what we feel is a flaw or misbehaving, or so Baba says then we have to do silent action. So in organization we also have to deal with this issue actually. We don't have an open communication where we can really discuss, maybe Margi to Margi, but within the organization we just, we see the situation and we think, and if we start to speak out, it becomes a challenge to the structure or the authority or whatever. And so the only thing that Baba suggested is silent action. So these are all things we have to consider. Every place is different. Maybe in America you can say anything you want. Maybe in Asia you have to be more subtle, cannot be too straightforward. But Kalyani, I think you would prefer everything to be very clear and open, right?
No,
Not really.
not really. It depends.
I always see you as very straightforward and you speak your mind and kind of person.
It depends. Yeah.
Okay.
No, very often I do not.
Oh, really?
I do not. Maybe with you I can.
Yeah, for me it's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So if you are interested, try to do this homework. I always see Tripti and Chitra very faithfully turning in homework. And so 4 cards. What hurts you in the other person? How do you deal with it? And what do you use of your mind? Then what would you like the other person to develop? And how do you see your future with that other person? Thank you very much. Thank you to DDG and Muktendra and everybody. And namaskar. See you next week.
Namaste. Thank you.
Namaskar.